I don't know what's real on the internet and what's not real on the internet. I don't know timing-wise. And one of them, he's got a beard, and one of them, he doesn't have a beard. And I have no idea. I don't know if any of that's real or true or whatever, but I'll actually be with him tomorrow. I'm flying there right now. I'll see what's going on.
I look at this, to me, like some disappointment, but I think it's just heating up. It's getting spicy. This is the lead up to any McGregor fight. There's always a controversy. There's always something crazy happening.
Cancelling a press conference in Dublin a month before he's supposed to fight in Vegas, not necessarily sending the best message. So surely it's got to be something fairly significant. We know for certain that it wasn't Chandler, because Chandler was ready to go. He's ready to get on the plane. So this had something to do with McGregor.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with drugs or alcohol or any kind of illicit usage or anything like that. So
it's exactly what he would say if it had something to do with one of those things.
Explicitly said. So here's what he said. In consultation with the UFC.
So when talking to the UFC.
Yeah, talking to the UFC. Today's press conference was cancelled due to a series of obstacles outside of our control. I can't wait to put on the greatest all-time show in the octagon. So he's clearly he's planning to fight.
He's building the hype. This is all a ploy, you know?
Yeah.
I don't understand what obstacles there are that stops McGregor getting to the press conference. Because he's saying McGregor Sports and Entertainment, in consultation with the UFC, have come up against several obstacles to drive to an arena and talk. Like, what is...
You do wonder whether or not, like, something happened in camp where the UFC goes, oh shit, do we really want to pump a shitload of money flying everyone out there for something that may or may not happen?
The speculation begins.
Well, that's the thing, because
when has McGregor not shown up for a fight?
That's true.
He's injured. He was injured for Cerrone. Had injury, obviously, going into the Poirier fight, the Aldo one or the Mendes fight. Super injured, right?
Yeah. Mendes.
And he shows up every time, regardless, because of the fans and the people that invest in him. He's got a really old quote that's like, you know, if you don't show up and perform, you're insulting all the people that believe in you. And I feel like he still does echo that.
I think as well, with all the mounting pressure of everyone wanting to see Conor McGregor back for such a long time, and it's now sort of the linchpin of this event that is like taken so long, and it's like, has the steam run out? Do we care anymore? Is the rivalry going to be worth watching? I think the UFC will do everything they can to keep this fight happening.
Oh, yeah.
Because even injuries or not, obviously Chandler is desperate for it because obviously everything it means to him. And then Conor is like, seemingly everything Conor says in interviews, which I don't think we can trust, but he's desperate to get back in and fight for the love of fighting.
Well, that's the word as well from like people around him. That like he is super committed and he's fully in training camp and he is like
but it's like you think back to the Khabib all the build up and like Kavanaugh and all that stuff. We're talking like this was McGregor, he's doing his thing, he's committed, he's ready,
and then afterwards
he's fight. And yeah, it was like he was having paid bouts in hotel rooms with Russian wrestlers. and he would go away for 3 weeks and then come back and do it again, and it's like he clearly wasn't in camp, clearly drinking and partying and going through some kind of depression.
But the Cerrone camp wasn't like that at all.
I think he got a bit embarrassed from that.
Well, that's like the oldest PR trick in the book, isn't it? Oh yeah, this camp's going better than ever.
Yeah, of course.
Because you don't want your opponent to know that, and you don't want the fans to feel like they're not going to buy now, you know? So there's so much that goes into it. But it could just be the same thing as UFC 200, where he's like, I haven't fought in a while. This fight means a lot to me, and I'm just going to train. But the occurrence of it happening like 20 hours before it was supposed to happen probably leans towards it actually being some sort of occurrence, and we just won't know until we actually get there. But what I find fascinating is there's no real leaks. Ariel, he at least knows enough to know it has nothing to do with drugs, alcohol, or some sort of... I mean, there could be a legal factor.
I don't know about you guys, but this is like massively worrying. Like a big press conference. Like again, the amount of production that goes into these press conferences is a massive expense to promote that event. Why would they pull the plug on promotion for an event?
Yeah, you know, so much staff had already been flown over there. So much gear had already been hired out for, like, the amount of people. And, you know, Dana, he might have even already been in Ireland by then. He was saying he was leaving right after the press conference. So, yeah, there's no telling how much capital was wasted.
It seems like from what the message or the statement that we've gotten is that McGregor cancelled it, and they're
Yeah.
like, we can't do this show with just Chandler because that's
Yeah.
we're in
Chandler
Ireland.
was ready to fly.
Yeah,
was,
like the whole point we're here is for McGregor. So if he says no, but maybe it's him, McGregor, throwing a bit of weight around after maybe the way he feels like he's been treated this whole time as this like commodity that the UFC can use when they want to use.
To the expense of your own fans.
It
but
seems
he-
unfathomable to do
Yeah.
it towards your own people.
Yeah.
Like, it would be one thing if he was like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to rock up to the UFC 200 press conference. But it is another thing, less than 24 hours out, to be like, yeah, I'm not even going to give a reason.
It's the blessing and the curse of Conor McGregor. The blessing, you get a guy who is going to give you the largest gate ever. But if he doesn't show up or there's a problem, you're screwed because you cannot replace him and you have to refund everybody if that fight doesn't go ahead. No one's paying 16 grand for a ticket to see Jamal Hill fight whoever's filling in now.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even
Oldberg,
remember.
which is great
Yeah,
fight,
well,
but
that's
like
a fucking-
it's not
Do
a
we know
main
if
event
Ian
of a
Gary
pay-per-view.
was there and like some of the other
that's a
I
good
stars?
think
did
it
they-
was just those two
It's just
supposed
that's
to
a
be
really
there,
good
which is.
one.
But then Ariel did say it would be good if Ian was there because you get the
Yeah.
Irish
Would've
one.
been
MVP
smart.
would have been a
great.
quick trip.
Maybe
to
you would have, but
Venom,
like
yeah.
that's the point: is the blessing and the curse, right? If it does fall apart, they're screwed. But not just because of the money
They
they put into the
still
conference.
plan to do the press conference. They said keep your tickets because they'll be
They
valid
did
for the
say that,
next
yeah.
one. So it's like we're counting
Yeah.
down quickly now to we've got what 3 weeks?
There's still
Well,
plenty
3 and a
of
bit
time.
weeks. So
But that's why I'm like, it's just typical McGregor
Wait, so
fight
you're saying
week.
they were going to rebook the presser?
That's what they're
Okay.
saying.
And
Postponed is the wordage that they
Right.
keep using.
in Ireland in that arena, so they're not going to move it because obviously all the people they want that Irish like hype piece.
Got to.
But
Yeah.
so it's when they're going to fit it in. What can be that bad that you have to cancel it? You physically can't get there, but you can do again in maybe a week.
I think a more interesting question, at least for me, is do we think this fight's still going to happen? Like, because if something like that can catastrophically happen with, at this stage, zero explanation, hopefully we'll find one soon, but the UFC doesn't do that. Like, Conor got kicked off of UFC 200 specifically for trying to do this, and he was already about as big of a star as you could get. He just had the Nate Diaz fight. He just had the Aldo win, and they were trying to book that rematch, and he kicks him off the card. The only other exception was Ronda Rousey in her last fight, and I think that was because Dana knew this is it. And maybe there's a bit of that in this case, where this might be, Dana's kind of treating it like this might be his last fight too. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any way it can't have at least shaken your confidence in this fight occurring. If I'm Dana White, and I'm sure he already has been, he's been on the phone with every champion he has on his roster to just say, hey, in case this goes nuclear, are you ready to fill in? Because if something like that can happen, then it can definitely happen for a fight. What, like you said, all you got to do is drive there and talk.
Who's Chandler even going to fight if it's not McGregor?
Well, it probably wouldn't be Chandler. It'd probably be another champion filled in. The other idea is, Max Holloway and let's do a BMF, which is not a terrible idea.
What's probably more infuriating for Dana White and the UFC is that, like, the only reason this Dublin presser is going to happen in the first case is because Conor wanted this to happen. So Conor probably talked them into doing this presser. And now he's also the reason why it's not happening as well. So that's got to be so infuriating as a company. And for a company that is becoming more and more the three letters and, promoting themselves and Dana, not necessarily the athlete, this is probably, this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back in the sense of like, right, no longer do we want champions to dictate how their fights go and what promotion we do for them. We are going to be the ones that are, conducting the orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long ago that Dana White was also passing on the story that he doesn't want to fight. How do you get a guy to fight with that much money? And it's like, so, I mean, yeah, you'd only think it would sour things that he can't fulfill a promise that potentially Conor is trying to put over the, we need to go to Ireland, we need to do a big show in Ireland because it's going to make this comeback the greatest thing ever. And then, you do a no-show. As there's only so many of those you can get away with. And there is no secret that this is the end or the ending moments of McGregor's career because he only has so much left that he can give. He's come off a big injury against a guy who he could lose to. Like, it goes without saying. It's very clearly a fight that McGregor is supposed to win, so you can say he beat an exciting guy who is in the middle of the table and you can give him a title shot. That's all it is. That's the way of justifying it. But Chandler is a very real threat, a very dedicated fighter who will not go down easy. And if he fucks up, we might not see McGregor again. This may be the last big moments we get from a star in the UFC, let alone McGregor there. So it's kind of like these are so important to build that hype train. So whatever he does next, he has that following him. Because if he goes out there, kind of no-shows, we don't know if he's like this mad genius who's committed to camp, who's doing all he can. If he's just some guy floating about and gets knocked out, it's kind of like, what the fuck have you been doing? It's just really, it's so unsatisfying because you know how good he is and how good he was at one point.
Yeah.
Like, he has that in him. He can knock out anyone. He just needs things to align, and it feels like, clearly, he's not like a John Jones where he's this freak athlete that can just do things. He needs to have the preparation, and he needs to have the motivation. And if he's not moving heaven and earth to get to this press conference, to show out in front of his fans, everyone there loves him, will go nuts for him. What is that? I just don't understand. Maybe like these things, okay, maybe this thing was thrown together. Like, think of all the contracts that people go, I didn't know I was fucking fighting him until they released the poster on Twitter.
Right, yeah.
Like, it
or
could
on
happen
some
like that.
podcast, you see the War Room photo that shows we knew MVP was fighting in the UFC before he ever had that announced.
So I don't know. Maybe McGregor's not the one to blame. Maybe he was just caught short in a moment where he wasn't prepared. But you would think he's in a position to promote the shit out of a fight a month away from actually stepping in the cage.
Well, if you go based on what he's actually said and his track record, which you might not want to go on, you might think that's not enough evidence, but he said it's out of his control. And in the past, he has always shown up for fights. So if you ask me if the fight is still going to happen, I think it's still going to happen.
Probably,
I think McGregor's still going to take the fight unless it's something that is really out of his control. And that could be like something legally, that could be anything. And I think McGregor's fully aware of the cost that you mentioned, because there are quotes previously where he's said stuff like, oh, I've just got done saving the company, 20 million on the gate and 15 million on the pay-per-view. And that's because he took the fight with Mendes when he didn't have to. Like, he's fully aware of the costs that go into these things and the responsibility on him to show up and like earn everybody money or lose everybody money. And like in this instance, he knows he's like losing and costing people money. So if he says it's out of his control, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though there's been all these fucking crazy videos. I just think he wouldn't have even agreed to do the fight if he didn't really want to do it. I don't know. It's he might still be a mad genius, as Luke says, and he's hoodwinking us all.
If it was like border control though as well, wouldn't McGregor just tweet stuck in fucking Monaco? Can't get the fucking yacht out.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah,
If it was trivial,
that's a
shit,
good point.
You
Yeah.
would just say, fucking tried like heaven and earth to try and get the fuck out of the country.
Well, unless
but I'm stuck here because I've
it's
lost my fucking passport. That's why you wonder whether it's so hush hush, whether it is like a legitimate like injury, where the UFC gone fuck, like let's not do anything before we get. Let's get him checked and let's get him double checked by a different doctor to make sure he can actually fight.
But if he has an injury or something, obviously you have a chance to lose out a lot of money on McGregor having a big injury. One, you're going to postpone it, so you're going to lose that immediate income for the July. It wrecks your whole card. It maybe puts other fighters out on the card because they think that we can't sell this because it's not what everyone's afterwards. People might hand their tickets back in, but also might, affect all the money lines and people having general interest in McGregor fighting. Because if we find out that his fucking steel titanium plate hasn't worked or whatever it was, and he's got hairline fractures again, it's like no one's gonna. Who wants to see a contest which we know is sort of a done deal?
It's just like, when has he ever pulled out with an injury? He had microfractures.
But we didn't know
in his
about
leg,
it. We didn't know about it.
So why would we know now?
So if he comes out and says, "I can't,"
it would have
do
to be
because...
much worse.
yeah,
wouldn't it?
way worse. And
Yeah.
like, he had microfractures in his leg. He still bloody fought and broke
Yeah.
his leg. Like this guy doesn't
I'm
pull
saying
out.
that's the reason why you can't let people know about it.
Him going to a presser in crutch.
Yeah, he will have
that's
every
true.
camera on him
That's
ever.
true.
If he has a slight limp, people will be like, "Oh, what's
That's
going on
true.
there?"
Yeah, or his face, he's been hit or he's cut, maybe he's got cut over.
Yeah.
the
That's
eyebrow.
true.
Well,
That's all true.
there's a legitimate reason then. Yeah, he's got some sort of obvious issue that he doesn't want the world to know about. More importantly, doesn't want Chandler to know about. But the crazy thing about this, too, is I think Chandler, if there is an injury, probably knows. How many people would you have to keep under wraps at that point? People are when you get a crowd of people.
We've been able to keep the fact that the Earth is flat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for a long time.
Long fucking time. All
Usually
those
injuries
pilots.
do.
It's always
stay
this
under
is a big
wraps
hint.
until
This
after.
table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards probably worst case scenario. We're gonna see a postponement of the fight, but I think it's still gonna happen. If we do see a postponement of the fight, though, I guess the worst case scenario is it fizzled out like it did with the Ultimate Fighter last year and didn't get booked when it was supposed to. So it just sucks because there's nothing that's been said. That statement might have has been, I have no comment at this time, because he basically has no comment at this time. So we'll see what happens. I hope we find out soon. I think we should probably be ready to do another one of these podcasts if some news comes out tomorrow or something like that. But geez, man, what a catastrophe, legitimate or not, what a complete and total catastrophe.
So you're saying these tickets were free for the press?
Unless you got scalped.
Okay, so what were the Scout ticket prices?
Probably be like $1,000.
Which is crazy, isn't it? When you could watch our podcast for as little as $2.99.
You wouldn't even spend $1,000 after several years.
That is sad.
Many
that
years.
People are obviously going to do that. Pick up tickets for free just to resell to people. It's a great profit. Great profit margin. We should do that. We should get UFC credentials and then just sell them and send them to any old people. Yeah, exactly.